Hey guys, AJX22 here, and we just did a round of electrolysis on the Colt new service with the Epsom salts. It's been a long round. It's kind of a strange one, actually. It doesn't look anything like the electrolysis done with the washing soda. I don't know if you can tell, lighting not being great, but there's it is pulling rust off in a strange pattern. Here, let's take a look here. The areas that have been recently exposed as a result of prying on that crane and some of the nooks, the rust is coming off in kind of a slime. I'm gonna go wash it off and scrub it down, but it's different than it was before. I'm gonna also do some agitation on the crane and just basically rub this all over with an old toothbrush. The steel also the electrode isn't corroding as much as I would have expected it to, and I'm not sure if it's just not scaling up on it or if it's like building up in the bottom of this thing or what. But I'm not 100% sure I'm loving this. I'm gonna do it on the Stevens here in a sec, and then see what actually happens. Maybe increase the concentration of the Epsom salts that are being used. But hold on for just a sec. I'll go scrub this down and see what happens when we wash it up. How easy the scale comes off. One sec. All right, we got it out of the electrolysis and scrubbed it off. Sprayed it down with a little bit of oil just to keep everything from rusting again. And as you can see, it's making some marginal improvements. One thing to note is that this, the difference between like the bare metal and the black stuff that's on top of it starting to become much more prominent. And I think, and I might as well do this on camera. Yeah, it's still not having this black stuff come off. So it's pretty on there. Unfortunately. That said, it's entirely possible that in some of these areas there may be markings that we're going to expose, which is kind of exciting for me. I mean, some of this stuff looks for all the world like you could just flake it off with a knife. I don't want to damage the underlying metal, but it's getting there. You can also we're starting to see the pins and stuff. I mean, this is, pitted still pretty heavily. But, not irreparably so. And that's kind of almost a screw right there. But, endeavoring not to screw everything up with, makeshift hand tools. It's coming along. Marginal improvements are still improvements. I'm going to try picking at this and seeing if any of this stuff is able to come off. It might require some more brass wheel work or something, but it's coming along. Getting it to let go. So far, the ultrasonic bath actually seemed like it did the most damage. Well, not damage, but the most work on this black layer, this black oxide layer. It might have also been soaking in penetrating oil. So I'm not sure which we need to thank for that. That's coming off reasonably. Wonder if there's like different strengths of adherence in some places versus others. Hard to say. I'll have to go over this and just pick at it and see what happens. I think the internal stuff is all breaking loose pretty good. I mean, you can really make out the little lever here. Can't really move it yet. But you can scrape off that deposit, which wasn't able to be done before. So, little mechanical agitation is probably in order here. Hard to say. Yeah, I believe that the markings that we're looking for are either going to be here or on the front or back strap. In theory, there could be some on the barrel, but I don't think the barrel's going to yield much. Yeah. Hard to say. Hard to say. Fingers crossed. Anyway, it's coming along. I'm looking forward to it, getting more of this black stuff off. And then probably going to try knocking this little burr up here out of the way. And maybe try machining like a pin to go in here for now, to be able to see how this is slightly bulged. A lot of the time when these guns are buried, they'll put some unique stresses on the frame or internals. A lot of the time the cylinders, because they're thicker, will get pushed out of the frame, and it'll bend some things in the process. This is what I've been seeing. So this will need to be pushed back to true. This will need to be either ground off or knocked back before I can start fitting the side plate and stuff on. And I'm not going to do any like material removal if I can help it until we've at least got all this black stuff gone, because you know, I don't want to clearance for gunk that's going to eventually come off. It's taken some doing. The type of rust that was on this gun was heavier, more closely adhered to the steel than on some of the previous restorations. So, you know, it's amazing the different types of rust there are. Sorry about that. I actually lost battery while filming. It happens. So I swapped out for another battery, but in the meantime, I got to picking away at some of the internals a little bit to see what was free. And this little, I actually have no idea what this is called on this gun, but this thing that was right here is no longer there. It came right off. And what appears to be this little, I don't know, polywog shaped thing is coming out too. I'm not sure what this does. This appears to be some sort of a spring, and it's obviously, as you can tell by how much deformation's there, it's, you know, any spring effect that this one piece used to have is totally gone. I think I might actually have a spare one of these in the SAC O parts for this gun, and we're getting to that point where it looks like we're going to have to start, you know, holding things up next to it and clearancing for fit. But this little pocket is just about cleared out. Kind of impressed. I gotta pry this thing out a little bit more, and I want to get one of the little polywog shaped dingus in hand, so I make sure I don't like overdo it or underdo it. Leave like the tip of the tail in there on accident. This thing is not yet there. I mean, you could start seeing it wiggle, but we're not at a point where we can really like heavily pry yet. It's just still a little too much gunk. Needs more thin knife blades run around the edges of it, just scraping out the gunk. It's sort of a mix of rust and dirt and the funk of ages. I mean, it feels like it's moving more than it ever was, I wonder if it's possible to see. Yeah, you can sort of see that. Once you get it moving that much, you know, it's just a matter of sitting here and wiggling it for 45 minutes and it'll eventually come loose. This is not a hobby for somebody who's impatient or demands instantaneous results. You will mess it up. Things come out when they want to come out. And every time you force it, and I mean every time you force it, you create problems that you will then have to uncreate later. So be aware of that if you're going to start playing with this stuff. You know, word to the wise and all. But yeah, I suspect this is going to come out, then this is going to come out, and I'm going to keep futzing with this. I think I'm gonna drag this over to a shop with a better set of screw bits, and I'm gonna try this little this screw. I think we've got enough stuff on this, like enough of the schmutz come out of this that we might be able to get a good bite on it. And if we can get a good bite on it and just pop it, then once that's out, I think we can access this screw, this pin here that's, I think, being retained by it. I really should watch a full disassembly video of how these guns go together, you know, eventually. But we're at the point where I think that getting penetrating oil into the crane or solvent or something, maybe some pea blaster, would have a very beneficial effect, you know, attacking the seizing from that end of it. Plus, we might just be able to tap the crane out at that point if we can get those pins gone. I think those are the only things actually retaining it. So if it's bearing against that and that's gone, you know, we get a whole nother angle of attack on that. And you know, I for one will have a celebratory adult beverage upon the removal of that crane, because that crane's sort of the one thing that you're like, yeah, you know, restoration is great and wonderful and spiffy, but if that's still there, you're either gonna have to mill it out or you're gonna have to do something. And you know, the moment it pops free and this is then a gun. You know, this is returned to the firearm from whence it came. Barrel popping out. I mean, if we need to rebarrel this gun, we rebarrel this gun. That's not the end of the world. I'd like to try to salvage this if possible, but if not possible, then not possible. Part of me kind of wants to reline it, because it looks so ugly and it's so perfectly matched. I could do a new barrel that I use wax to mask off the threads and the inside of the bore, and do a reverse electrolysis to bring it into spec, you know, like visually on the outside, and then you know, go from there. I don't even know if I could clamp this thing in a lathe and spin it. It's so lumpy. But hey, you know, got to try the new things, and we're already at the point where, you know, you go from this is a lump of rusted, corroded steel that will never again be a firearm to, well, maybe. And, you know, well, maybe is good enough for me to say, yeah, that can be done. No idea what the metallurgy is like on the frame. No idea of any of it. Either way, it's getting built and it's getting shot. So we'll keep going, see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing all these parts come out, get going through the inside, starting to reshape it, and actually start doing real Smith type work to getting it back together, getting new parts fitted. Yeah, this is coming. It's still bound up pretty good. This black stuff is some kind of heavy duty oxide layer that's on there, and it does not want to let go. I've scraped a little bit of it off so there is steel underneath, and it is coming off. It's hard for me to show you. I might just have to take a razor blade and just gently and lovingly scrape it down. But yeah, that is kind of awesome. And you know, that other little doodad that I don't know. I think this rides on that somehow, or no, other way. This is some sort of return spring mechanism for. It might be the trigger return spring. I think that might be what we're looking at here. That would make sense, because this would pivot upwards. This would be pulled down, and then it would bear on the trigger to return it. That's just a horrible design. I mean, relative to the Smith & Wesson. I mean, the Colt is, you know, decades out of date. Relative. The reason why nobody copies the Colt design with any modern thing, it's just horrible. I mean, not to rag on Colts. I love Colts. Don't get me wrong. Wanna make sure I'm not hating, but you know, my favorite handgun to shoot. Well, my two favorite handguns to shoot are Colts. I have a Colt Woodsman pre-war, and I have a Colt Police Positive 38. That's one of the cylinders, one of the little chambers is out of time, but for whatever reason in single action there is nothing I can't hit with that gun. It just, you know, the gun gods aligned, and the master craftsman who assembled it on that day, you know, did his job wonderfully. And every now and then, you know, you run across a gun that for all intents and purposes should not be as accurate as it is, and it just blows you away. It's the right gun for you. So I want to make sure that when I'm hating on the mechanism here, you understand that I'm not hating on all Colts. I love me some Colt, but from a design standpoint, this is I mean, what the hell is this? You know, it's a sperm and a teeter-totter. Yeah, so gonna keep working on it, and you know, we're gonna get her to be a functional gun here. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. Yeah, I'm excited. It's interesting learning about how this stuff actually works. It's amazing that they work as well as they do. Yeah. All right, have a good one, guys. I'm gonna get back to it. Check this. How cool is that? Just a little bit of pressure, repeated motion, breaking right free. Amazing. All right.